really nice. So my name is Andy Wolin, and I am a plastic and reconstructive surgeon doing only cosmetic surgery in Scottsdale, Arizona for the last, oh God, Greg, 37 years. I know Greg for almost that entire time, probably about 30 years or so, because I asked Greg to come out and help me out changing my practice 30 years ago from general reconstruction to cosmetic. Greg is really great because he changes with the times, and he comes up with different aspects of what the best thing is in terms of your practice, in terms of plastic surgery. But more important, he's really come up with a lot of different ideas on how to protect what you built, how to continue to build what you build, how to exit after you built it. So, I want to introduce Greg Washington. He's just really, he's been a great, really inspiration to, I think, a lot of practices, not just my own practice. And he really has evolved and is continuing to evolve. So I think whatever he has to tell you, listen. I think it's real important. Greg?
Thank you so much, Andy.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
That was spirited. You know, you got me blushing. You know, that's a hard thing for me to do, and when I blush.
For your tan, it's tough.
So let's kind of just move it right to that case study. I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. William Laverne, who has a practice in Boston. He's a client for many, many years. So let's kind of cut right to his presentation. What you're going to see is where he was in a room like this here at the Baker Gordon meeting exactly 4 years ago by one day. And you're going to hear him go from that progression to where he is today, and he's going to tell you some things that you probably hadn't thought about, and I think you'll be really inspired by what he has to say. So let's kind of get to him.
And I'm starting the process of thinking about, okay, let's plan what to do when I move on.
You know, one of the things that struck me is ironic. You're in the process of retiring. You've got equipment, facilities, you've got a booming marketing program going. And that happened during with all of this happening during the pandemic, the business picking up and so forth. Did you ever have any second thoughts about maybe staying around a little longer? And if so, why?
I love what I do. I would do it forever. But by the same token, I think that there comes a time when surgeons should say that they're going out on top. You don't wait to slow down. You don't wait to have a problem. You go out when you're doing your best.
What are the prospects of a person walking into your practice and being able to continue your legacy, in your opinion?
Oh my goodness, it's a fully set up practice with a fully certified operating room, with a boatload of patients, with a treasure trove of informational data because it's all electronic now. In my practice, we've got somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 names and emails of patients that have been over 20 years and many repeat patients, and a host of non-invasive machines and equipment that the staff is well trained on in those specific machines. We've got at least 6 different energy-based devices. And so it really is someplace where somebody could walk in and take over. Do not stop your Google advertising.
Okay.
Because it works. It works better now than it did pre-pandemic.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Laverne, for remotely joining Patients Unlimited bonus session at the Baker Gordon Symposium. Greg Washington has provided our audience with your background, so let's jump right in. I think it was about 4 years ago you attended Patients Unlimited bonus session in Miami, and we were focusing on marketing strategies for revenue growth. We specified that these strategies are foundational to legacy planning. Can you share with our audience why this topic resonated with you?
Well, sure. What I really thought about was that I had a retirement sort of scheduled, if you will, in 4 to 5 years, and I knew that at some point I'd be retiring. I wanted to make a number of plans in doing that. I wanted to be able to exit without any pressure on either my staff or my patients, as well as on me. I didn't want to have to take care of my charts for another 7 years after
Mm.
completing the state requirements. And I thought that with all of that, there would be some monetary value in the practice, and I was going to try and get something out of it if I could. But I also wanted to make sure that I got everything taken care of so that I could retire comfortably, in the sense of not having to do work that I didn't want to do at that point.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to have a plan for your exit strategy. It's particularly important in the medical industry because for medical and surgical practices, valuation includes like facilities, your patients, your records, your equipment. And in most cases, particularly with cosmetic surgeons, the value of an internet property or your website is overlooked or minimized in the practice valuation, particularly by brokers. Did you realize the value of your website?
Well, initially I did not, for sure. My website certainly brought me patients, and I knew that during my practice that it was of value. When I look at where my patients come from, and I track everything quite carefully, in the days before the internet, there was a lot of referral from primary care docs who were at your hospital or in the local areas. So that certainly some of it came from that. With the internet, there then became a lot of people who did not want to talk to their primary care doc about their needs, if you will, for facelift, breast augment, whatever. I sort of lump everything into two groups. There's an older group who have a very good relationship with their primary care doc, but absolutely do not want to ask them who to go to for a plastic surgeon. They want to keep it very private. New England is very different than Miami or Los Angeles, where you can't go to Breakfast Club in Miami or Los Angeles if you can't talk about your plastic surgeon. And in Boston, you can't go if you do. So it's a very different attitude. The younger people have a much better attitude about openness about their plastic surgery and what they do. But the problem there is they haven't developed the relationships with their primary care doc because they haven't needed them yet. They're still in that younger age group. So a lot of people go to the internet. So at the time of the when I'm practicing, I know that people go to the internet, and I know that both from organic searches as well as from AdWords searches that I get a lot of information. What I didn't realize at that point was that that would translate later, as long as I kept it up well, that would translate later into a monetary value that adds to the practice value in total.
Yeah, that's very important because without a robust website presence, then you really can't make a goal of it and continue to have growth in patients. You were also very smart by implementing the AdWords campaign that bolstered the organic, because that's just diminishing. So while we were working on your plan with you, we got the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, did you consider changing your course of action?
Well, I certainly considered changing it a little bit, and I did stop the AdWord campaign for a few months in Massachusetts because of what the governor said, as well as just because of the pandemic in general. We had to close down completely for 4 months. So I didn't even come into the office at all for 4 months. And so, yes, I did back off a little bit with the AdWords at that point. But the difference then became, as we got used to what the pandemic was, I got much busier.
Wow.
And we certainly needed to increase the AdWords and the organic searches as well and keep the website up because people realized that they had more flexibility in having time to heal up. And they also, on the Zoom conferences or whatever kind of video conferences they were doing, they're seeing themselves at the same time as they're seeing the person they're speaking with. And in a meeting, you never had that before. You only saw
Hmm.
the other people, you never saw yourself. So I think that truly the pandemic has increased the cosmetic surgery business tremendously. And so that from an internet point of view, I've needed to increase a number of things. I've pushed from the non-invasive side as well as the surgical side and made sure that all my staff were up to par and keeping safe as well.
Hmm.
And those are really the biggest things that I can say. It also gave me time. Luckily, in my retirement planning, it would have been worse had I needed to finish up in the end of 2020 because we didn't know where things were at that point. We still weren't coming out of it financially and getting busy enough. Uh, but it gave me time to work on the website, and downtime sometimes is good, so that we can go forward. And I'm glad that this was my time frame and not a year or two ago.
Yeah, that's what we try to emphasize with our clients and our prospects is that it's never really too soon to begin your legacy planning. I'm a big advocate, and so is PUMC, of doing marketing planning because it encompasses everything today about a thriving practice. One final question. Would you care to share with our audience where you are with your planning, your legacy planning today?
Well, I've been awfully lucky. I am in the midst and have somewhat of a contract signed that somebody's going to
Hmm.
come in, take over my practice, and take the charts, move into my space, keep all of the equipment. Because just even offloading equipment is a tremendous responsibility
Hmm.
and time factor.
Hmm.
And it's going to give me time to not worry about my staff, my patients, and to know that they're all handled well, and give me time to spend more time with my 12 grandchildren, my wife, and go boating and fishing and all the things that I like to do.
Now you're making all our audience very jealous of you. That's great. We truly, truly appreciate the time you have taken to share your experience, and we thank you very much and hope to see you maybe next year in Miami, taking some more
Well,
time
you
out.
bet I certainly will continue with some of the meetings and all the social contacts I have in plastic surgery.
Let me kind of cut to the chase and kind of give you what's on our mind. We've always advocated that the internet and digital marketing was going to be the most important revelation that you'll probably think about as being your salvation for legacy planning. The facts are the practice wealth is based in digital activity. It's not the equipment anymore. It's not the goodwill anymore. It's not a great location anymore. It's a system that captures people to your practice, and they're not looking for you by your family name. It's usually a fictitious name. So when we put this program together at the time that we talked with Dr. Laverme at this meeting, he had a notion he wanted to retire, but he didn't have a formalized plan. What we did was we went in and reconditioned every aspect of his communications with future patients, current patients. And to wrap up, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.